I'm Gary, and I'm the Managing Director of United Oddsocks. Thanks for stopping by. I was asked to give a talk today about our journey really, about finding distributors overseas. So the first thing I'm going to do is talk to you about, very briefly, just about what we are. So we started around about 2008, and we've now got about 90 SKUs. All Oddsocks, that's exactly what we do. The name speaks for itself. We have about 350 retailers in the UK, but more importantly for this, presence in around 14 countries around the world. So the talk today is about how we went about that in the start and some of the pitfalls and some of the problems that we had and some things that you might want to think about. We produce around 2 million socks a year, and the reason I put our vision at the bottom there, very clearly, if you go right down to the end, it says giving our global community of odd sock wearers, and the important word there is global. So we want everybody to do something different every day by wearing odd socks in our case, but that has to be a global club. And if we didn't have a network of our distributors, we wouldn't be able to do that and make it possible. So this is a bit of a step-by-step guide in fairly easy language. There isn't anything too complicated, but it should provoke some thought, hopefully. And it's some of the things that we went through and thought of at the start, and really a kind of beginner's guide. So I'm no way an expert in like the UKTI trade guys, but certainly it's things that we've been through ourselves. Let's talk firstly about getting ready for distribution and some of the things that you need to think about. And actually, one of the first things that we thought about was a distributor strategy right for us? These days, there's lots of ways to go global. You can decide to do it yourself. You can set up different language websites. You can find an outsourced company to handle the customer services in lots of languages. Actually, a lot of companies who are suppliers like myself, we actually find ourselves global without knowing it because of Amazon and eBay. And before you know it, your products are being sold, there's somebody nodding there. Products are being sold all over the world and you're a global company and actually you never knew it. But for us, a distributor strategy was the right thing to do. The next thing we had to think about was, were our products available overseas? Well, socks are available all over the world, right? I mean, they're not new. So what we had to think about was, what was our USP? What's our unique selling point? And how were we going to compete all over the world with other products that might be similar? Think about whether the products are actually suitable for export. Are they too big? Are they difficult to ship? I was actually watching the telly the other week, The Fixer with Alexis, the Trust House 40 woman. You might have seen it. She was in a beer company, and it stuck in my mind. One of the beers that she was trying to sort out was a brand called Crispy Pig. Now, I instantly thought, if you were trying to export that, that's half the world you wouldn't be able to sell it to. So think very carefully about your product and if it's going to be suitable and if you might need to make some changes. Next, we talk about supply chain. We thought about, can we scale up? Can our factory easily take on all of this new workload so we can supply all of these new customers around the world? And then we talk about shipping. This is a real minefield. We learned about free on board, FOB, which means that the product is sent direct from the factory to the customer, in our case, Turkey. And we talk about ex-works, where it's sent from the UK. Lots of cost implications in different ways, and the customers and distributors require shipping in different ways as well. This next part, I think, is the most important part of this presentation. We can be easily seduced when distributors come up to us at trade shows and, we love it. Have you got anyone in America? We want to take on America for you. It's very, very seductive. Luckily, one of the first things that we did was work out whether we could actually afford to sell our products overseas. And if you think about your current trade price, maybe take 40% off of that. That's what you'll be selling it to your distributor for. Then add in all the other costs, visits that you might have to make to the distributor, the cost of legal fees to get the agreement set up, which I'll talk about in a second, the cost of marketing, providing point of sale. Will it be worthwhile? The chances are yes. I don't want to be too doom and gloom on the first slide, but these are just some things that we considered. If you get through all of that and I'm sure you will, it's all very doable. The next thing to think about is finding out as much as you can. So I've called it research, and it's very important, and this is what we did. What we found over time was the most important thing that we could do was work out the best fit, what our actual values were as an organisation, and finding a distributor overseas, this goes for any country, where their company values were similar to ours. So for us, we've got a very family-style organisation, a very family-style company that we're very proud of. So they had to have a family-style company. They had to be really focused on building brand value in the brands that they sold as a distributor. Because if they were just in it for profit and money, they wouldn't match us. It's all about the brand with us, and they had to understand that. They had to be very open and honest. So that's just some of the things that we thought about, and it was a bit of a checklist when we started to look at distributors to see if they matched. Next, we did a lot of research about what changes we might need to make to our products, going back to the crispy pig analogy there. Packaging, labelling, languages. Are there any special audits in that country that you're trying to sell into that you need to comply with? Are there any regulations? And it's different for each country. I've mentioned it several times, but the UKTI, a plug for them, but also the Giftware Association, there's lots of information available, not only to help you fight through all of these different regulations, but also that last point there, what funds are available to you. In terms of expanding overseas, there's money available, so try and get it if it's something that you want to do. Importantly, how do we find a suitable partner? Well, you might get, if you're a supplier, you might get approached at a trade show. You can begin discussions that way. Actually, for us, we asked suppliers that we knew, perhaps people that didn't necessarily compete with us, but were in the gift industry. We asked them what distributors and who and where, and did they like them, were they good? And that's how we got our distributors. Use the web, there's lots of information on there. When you actually shortlist a distributor for a country, it's really important to think about the kind of products that they've already got in their portfolio. Now, the example I give you is, don't always think of the obvious, because although we're socks, we could have gone with apparel, we could have gone with box goods, this is what we do. If I give you the example of Canada, which was our most recent distributor that we took on, actually they are a kitchenware distributor. And they came to see us, actually Spring Fair, I think last year, and they said, we love the product, but we sell brushes and spoons and mops and kettles, all brightly coloured stuff. So, but they want to diversify and do new things. I loved it that they wanted to do that. To cut a long story short, we now supply them, and they're one of our biggest countries, because for their sales force, it was something new, something different. And once they convinced the sales force they didn't sell kitchenware, they sold gifts, it opened them up to a whole new set of products, including our products. So be open-minded about the kind of distributors that you use. Really important, this bit, understanding their sales channels. Do you want your product to be sold in discount stores overseas? Do you want it to be sold on Amazon or not? Do you want it to be sold on eBay or not? What kind of sales channels are important to you? Department stores, bricks and mortar, online, and make sure your distributor has those sales channels, otherwise you're going to be disappointed. All of that slide, the bottom line is there, start talking about them, and remember, at this stage, it's a two-way street, because we don't want a bitter aftertaste on our side or our distributor's side if they think that there's something that's not fair. So it's a two-way street, and flexibility is key. Once you're happy that you've got a distributor, I know I'm making this sound really easy, right? But I know it's a 20-minute presentation, so even if you write a few points down, hopefully you'll get something out of it. I mentioned it at the start, a distributor agreement is critical. And for a few £100, there's experts out there that will give you a template to use. It covers everything about sales targets, marketing plans. You know, sales targets are really important, and I was really scared of them to start with. I didn't really want to ask a distributor I'll put a sales target in the agreement, but my advice is you must, and they'll expect it. So if you expect them to do 100,000 a year in sales, put it down. They can always say, no, we want it to be less, or we think it should be more. Likewise with the marketing plan. in the agreement, it should be very specific about how they're going to market the product in that country and what the time frames are. Who is responsible for what? That's the whole point of the agreement. And my advice is, don't enter into a distributor situation without having a solid agreement signed on both sides. It's really important. And that second point there about giving away the family silver, don't be tempted and seduced to think you have to really make it too straightforward and easy for the distributor, because you might get stung. They'll expect it to be tough, and they'll tell you before they sign it if they're not happy with something that's in it. At this stage, we talk about roadblocks, and I put there, agree what happens if it's not working out. So in the agreement, make sure it's clear how you get out of it, how you can exit on both sides if it's not working out. There's no point wasting time with a distributor who has a whole country and they're not doing it the way that you want them to do it. So be very clear on how to exit on both sides. I think the second most important thing, apart from making sure you're going to make money out of it, is protecting yourself overseas. So we talk about intellectual property and trademarks. If you go into a new country, make sure your brand is protected. And here's the story. In the US, in trade shows like this, there's people that go around and, I mean, it might be a shaggy dog story, but it sounds true, so I'm going to tell you guys anyway. There's people that go around and they Google and look at every name to see if it's got a trademark. If it hasn't, they'll trademark it for a few $100s. And if it's one of yours and you've just gone into the country, they'll sell it back to you by all means, but for a couple of $100,000. So that's the US. It's a scare story. I know, probably not true. Maybe it is. I don't know. It hasn't happened to us, thankfully. But make sure you apply for IP and trademarks in the countries that you're going into. This is in a bit of a random place, this next one, but I thought it was quite important. Lead times. You know, yes, we'll supply you Canada. We can get you stock in 4 weeks. Actually, we can't. You think it takes us about 12 weeks to manufacture products, and then it's going to be another 6 weeks over the ocean to get there. So be realistic about the lead times, and then they can make sure that they don't overpromise with their customers, and it keeps everything smooth. Finally, on this slide, get insurance. You might have liability insurance for your customers or your customers in this country, and make sure that that liability insurance covers you overseas as well. Otherwise, again, more hot water, expensive hot water if you don't think about liability insurance. This picture here is me at in Canada. That was a Canadian, our newest distributor. That was a few weeks ago at their first trade show. And the reason I mentioned at the start was because you can see that our socks in the middle, where it's got threes, that's the set of 3, our socks. Next to it is brushes. So that's the kitchenware distributor that I told you about. And they're having massive success. That's the first, I suppose, end customer to have our products in Canada. That's why we took a picture, because it was quite a proud moment. This is when we start to think about a partnership, and this is where knowing your own values and making sure you select a distributor with those values is going to be really important, because you can have a long-term valuable relationship with them. Give them all the tools they need. They won't necessarily ask for point of sale, for marketing. When I went into their showroom where they've got all of their products, this particular distributor, our products were there, but it didn't have any branding, so straight away we sent them some stuff the next day and it arrived a few days afterwards. Give them everything they need. Remember, they're you, but overseas, so they're going to need tools to help them sell the product. Keep being flexible. If you do own a brand or you do have products that you're selling, you know that it took many years to establish it in this country. It's the same in any country that you go to, so be flexible. Even though your agreement might have pin them down quite considerably at the start when you're trying to get established with them, be flexible. Don't hold them to the letter right at the start, because they're trying to do their best to get that product established for you. Communication is really, really important. Don't forget to tell them about new lines you're discontinuing, because otherwise they're cut off. They won't be changing the way they're selling your product unless you tell them to change it. So communicate regularly and build a relationship of trust and visit them. I know it's not always possible, But that eye-to-eye contact is still really, although it's old-fashioned, it's really, really important. And we went out for dinner. This is Canada. We went out for dinner. I met all the sales reps. I kind of trained the sales reps, really, about how I thought the product sells best in the UK, and they loved it. It got them excited about it, and it was really, really important. This is a summary. This is the last slide, so it was a bit whistle-stop, like I promised, and a bit of a checklist. So I'll run through it very quickly. Really be sure whether the distribution strategy is right for you. You're probably global already without knowing it, on Amazon, eBay, etc. Think about whether you're going to make money, which is down the way there somewhere. Speak to the Giftware Association, UKTI, the mines of information that can help you with funding, how to do it, finding distributors, all this kind of stuff. Pick your countries. One thing I didn't mention is how we actually chose countries. This is how we chose them. We looked at our web sales. About 2 or 3% of our sales are via the web. People always want to buy a hamburger from McDonald's. So I think as a trade supplier, you should always make some product available to the end consumer, so B2C. We do. And it gives us loads of information about where in the world people are buying our socks from. So that's exactly what we did. When we decided on country, it was English speaking was the first thing. And the second thing was we looked at the profile of who was buying our products from our own website, from which countries. So that gave us an indication of where the product was popular. I'm going to say it again, will you make any money? Really important, don't be seduced by somebody saying, I'm going to make you rich and I'm going to take America by storm for you. Be clear on your values, I've said it already. Know your limits as well, know what you're capable and your business is capable of doing. Before you know it, you can blow your business apart by overselling it internationally. Get a good agreement signed, make sure you've got insurance and trademarks and IP, as I've said, important. Supply all the tools that distributor's going to need to do the right job for you, and above all, communicate as much as you can and build trust. Thank you very much.